For this last tip, I want to use a date column which has 24 months in it. So we have 2 years worth of data, and then we have the corresponding sales value. Now my objective here is to create a chart that only shows me 6 months at a time. And the user can decide which 6 month snapshot they want to see. For this, I just want to select 3, 4, 5, 6 and 6. Let's just put a border here and let's call this the selected date and this is the selected sales amount. Remember, our objective here is that the user should be able to see 6 dates and 6 sales amount here. Let's start with the first 6 months. We want from June all the way up till November. To do this, I will select the entire date range and in the name box, we will give a name. Let's just call this my dates. And then we select the entire sales field and we call this my sales. Now, how do we get these numbers? We can use some simple functions here. If you haven't done these functions earlier, not to worry, I will show to you how these functions are written, but I will not be able to explain it 100%, but you can always go back and do this yourself. Now we say equal to index. Now my array is obviously my sales. Sorry, it would be my dates. And from this, I want which row number? I want the first row number. Makes sense, right? Which means that from the second one, we want the second row number. From the third one, we want a third row number. How do you make this number dynamic? We can say count the number of rows from the current cell, which is E5 till E5. Now, obviously from E5 to E5, the row count will come as 1 and it gives me 43259. Not to worry, remember the format is incorrect. So let me just make sure that I have copied the format from the date in these cells as well. So we can see June 2018. And now notice what happens. When I copy the formula down, we get June, July, August, September, October, November. And we have only used a single formula here. How is it working? In the first one, it is showing us the first row, which is row E5 to E5. In the next one, it is row E5 to E6. Then it is E5 to E7 and so on and so forth. We can do the same thing with the sales value as well. The difference will be this time we are looking in my sales and we get these values. Now let's say that we want these 6 months to keep on shifting. That means right now the user has chosen from June to November, but what if they wanted to choose from August till January? So somehow these dates have to shift. How do we do that? For this, we have to create a control somewhere where I ask the user to choose, right? Now just observe this. In another 5 minutes, you will understand why we have done this. I'm putting in a number 1 here. And if you look carefully, here I want to add that number and then do a -1, which means that we are cancelling the effect. So it would be nothing but 0. If I copy it all the way down, then we get the same result. But that's not really what we want, right? What we want is that the first one should be 1, the second one should be 2, and so on and so forth. Which means that if I copy the formula down and I change it to 2, did you see what happened? It now shifted from June to November and it became July to December. If I press 3, it becomes August to January. And the idea here is that if I put, let's say 12, then it is showing me from May till October. So make sure to practice this a lot before you continue with the rest of the example. We are done with the formula. So we have index, we have created a range, we are choosing rows with a $$ and no dollar. And then we're using this anchor cell, right? So I'll just call this my anchor. Let's see what happens now. When we select this data, let's just call this date and sales, and we create a chart. You notice nothing special. We get a chart that shows us the first 6 months. But if I make this 2, did you see what happened? Now it shows us July to December. When I make it 3, it shows us August to January. and so on and so forth. Why are the columns not changing? Because we haven't connected the columns to the anchor. So like we did with this one, I can just copy this part of the formula and paste it here as well. And again, you notice this time, every time the anchor shifts, do you see how nicely my dates are shifting and obviously the chart is also changing? Very interesting, right? Now my sales are numbers between 100 and 200. So I can make sure that my axis is set at a minimum of 0 and a maximum of 200. The reason I'm doing this is so that the axis does not keep on changing every time the date is shifting. So 3, 6, 9, and so on. The only challenge now is that how do you tell the user that he's supposed to choose a different anchor? It doesn't really make a lot of sense, right? To do this, we use a form control. Now for this, you will need to enable the developer tab. Don't worry, we are not doing any VBA programming here, but you will still need to enable the developer tab. If you don't have the developer tab, this is how you enable it. You click on File, select Options, click on Customize Ribbon, and then within Customize Ribbon, you have an option called Developer, and you have to make sure to select this option. The moment you do that, the Developer tab will appear, and in this, you can insert different types of form control. So the one we want is this one. This is a spin button, or we can also choose a scroll bar. Let's choose the second row and the third one, this one. You select it and you can simply draw it on the screen like this, and you get this wonderful scroll bar on your Excel. Now, if we wanted to, we could have controlled this using VBA programming, but we don't want to do that. We want to control it simply by using our anchor. Now you notice when I click on the right or the left arrow, it shifts. When I click in this blank area, it shifts a little faster, and I can also move it manually. But nothing is happening. Nothing is happening because the form control is not linked to any cell. To do this, we right click, select Format Control, and now we want to say that the current value is 1, the minimum value is 1, the maximum value, now think about it. There are 24 months that I have, but when I show the 18th month, or rather the 19th month, I'm also showing 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. That means that my maximum value should only be 19. Think about it. Because when the anchor will become 19 and the first month is 19, then the second is 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, right? And because we only have 24 months with us, the maximum should be stopped at 19. The increment is 1 and we'll keep the page change at 6. You will see in a minute what increment and page changes. And the cell link will obviously be the anchor cell, which is J4. Now what happens is that whenever a user clicks on the right arrow, you notice it increments by 1. That means now you're seeing July to December. Then this is August to Jan, and you can simply move through the months like this. Wonderful, right? What happens when you click in this blank area? Now you're moving 6 months at a time. So the difference between a page change and an increment is the speed of the change. Of course, if you want to move manually, you can do this as well. So you can manually move between the 24-month period as well. Phew, so we have done a large example. We did a lot of things. I told you how to write this range along with a row and an index, how to create an anchor, connect to the anchor, and then finally create a form control. But I hope you're able to see how helpful this can be. Remember, this concept can be used with any chart. Even if I had a line chart, now we can create a dynamic line chart, which means that the user can click and you see how nicely the chart is moving dynamically. It's really up to your creativity how you end up using form controls. And the best part is this does not even use any Visual Basic coding. So please practice this very well. Try to do the same example and try to do a different example of your liking as well. And maybe try to create a different chart. The fundamentals remain the same. You have to extract the 6 months or the number of months that you want, create an anchor, and then create a form control. And you can use any chart that you want to.